So let's continue our drill down into the broadly speaking economics inaugural address of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu on Monday. Welcome our guest on this tonight, Taiwo Oyedele, Fiscal Policy Partner and Africa Tax Leader at PwC Nigeria, and Paul Alaje, who is a Senior Economist at SPM Professionals. Gentlemen, a good evening to you and welcome to our Rise Exchange.
Yeah, good evening and thank you so very much.
It's good to have you. Thank you. Let's get started with you, Taiwo Oyedele of PwC, on the side of tax and investments. President Tinubu says in his inaugural address that the country's anti-investment and multiple taxation regime will be reviewed. What are you looking to see happen in that regard?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, multiple taxation is one of the areas where I think all Nigerians agree that it's a problem for not only doing business, but also for the economy as a whole. But ironically, we seem to be doing the opposite of what we should be doing, especially in the past 4 years or thereabouts, where the National Assembly has introduced at least 3 new taxes on income tax alone. Police levy, NIDA levy, NASENI, all manner of taxes. NIDA was even introduced before 4 years ago. We have about 60 to 65 official taxes. Unofficially, they can easily stack up to over 100, 200 in some cases for manufacturers. And even for SME, sometimes they run into 20, 40, 50. And with these, what it means is you really can't do any profitable business, and then it creates a lot of risk and uncertainty for you, even when you manage to do business. And therefore, it's difficult for us to be able to grow in a manner that can be sufficient to create significant employment. So what I do expect is that the signaling is important. Saying that as part of the inauguration speech is good. We now need to translate that into concrete actions on the ground, which would include, number 1, harmonizing the number of taxes to a single digit that is broad-based, that is easy to collect, and is high revenue yielding, which is also what is recommended in the National Tax Policy. Number 2, we need to harmonize revenue collecting agencies. We should not have 63 MDAs chasing revenue and forgetting the reason why they were even established in the first place. Let only the FRS collect revenue for the federal government. Number 3 is you need a bit of data harmonization, even between federal government, sub-national, and even within the international community where you have exchange of information. That way you can use intelligence to be able to collect taxes that are already in place rather than introducing new ones. And finally, it will be to also harmonize the reporting and accountability around tax collection so that you can really deliver on this social contract of giving people, fiscal exchange for the taxes that they have paid.
Thank you, Taiwo Oyedele. Let me ask Paul Alaje very quickly about what Mr. President says in his inaugural address about industrial policy to be driven via fiscal measures which are directed at manufacturing. Tell me, what do you make of that, Paul?
Yeah, thank you so very much once again. The private sector needs public sector support, especially government support for the private sector to thrive. Some of the major challenges we've had in the country is disparity in our exchange rates and the instability we've seen around the sector because of a lot of importation. As a manufacturer myself, there are a lot of things that, a lot of support that we believe fiscal authority could help manufacturers to get or to put in place. And this statement to me is coming, and I'm interpreting it to mean that government is going to provide some support in terms of environment for private sector to thrive. And if you ask me what are these support, one that comes straight to mind is availability of energy or affordable energy for private sector to produce. When that happens, some of the things we are importing in Nigeria will be produced locally at a competitive rate, and we will use that. That, of course, will lead to employment. More persons, Nigerians, will get jobs, and decent job or factory job, if you like. That will mean that Nigeria, of course, will compete with countries that have our kind of size in their continent. We have signed African Continental Free Trade Agreement, but the question many have asked is, who is the biggest producer on the continent. So I hope that with the statement made by Mr. President during his inauguration, there will be action that will follow. It will not just be making that statement a policy, but action will follow. And unlike what we had under Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, when there was beautiful plan that was written by government, and we are going to see government also standing by that. They assess fiscal. So we hope we'll see government expenditure follow what government means. And this will go certainly beyond energy. Most of the things that are hindering us from expanding production and manufacturing. And more importantly, I want to believe the president is hoping manufacturing component of our GDP would increase sizably.
I'm sure you're listening there. You're sitting next to Paul Alaje there in our Abuja studios. So tax will be one of the things that manufacturers and industrialists will want to see. But again, Mr. President spoke in that inaugural address about multiple taxation system as a hindrance to both local and foreign investment capital. Talk to me on that, Taiwo.
Yes, recently the manufacturers in Nigeria have been complaining bitterly because government, after a lot of back and forth, government increased their excise duty rate and then phased it out for 2022, 2023 and 2024, significant increases, in some cases over 100%. And then government just decided a few weeks towards the end of the last administration to further increase the increases, even though with the Naira redesign policy and scarcity, some of these companies had double-digit decline in their turnover, and they were even closing down some of their plants. We saw the likes of Unilever also closing down very iconic brand that they have produced over so many decades. We've seen the likes of Game left Nigeria. So the situation is already very difficult. To then add on top of that multiple taxation is just trying to then ask someone who is in intensive care to donate blood. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So what is going to happen now is government needs to really tackle these multiple taxation problem, because not only is it increasing your cost of doing business, it's increasing your risk of doing business because it's a burden. Sometimes the way we even do it in Nigeria is some of these costs are imposed on investment. And I used to I say this often, many times, that government has to make a distinction between whether you are taxing seed or whether you are taxing fruits. If you are taxing seed, you collect the tax today, there will be no tax to collect tomorrow. If you wait for the fruits to grow and produce more fruits, then you can tax it on a sustainable basis. So actually, this is a win-win situation for not only government, but for the economy and the people of Nigeria. If we have a very deliberate, robust approach to fiscal policy and taxation such that not only should we address multiple taxation, let's also address informal taxes that are usually paid to non-state actors, as well as implicit taxes where people have paid taxes to government and still have to take care of what government should normally do in a sane society.
Yes, but again, if you look about tax and GDP, Paul Alaje, the new president spoke about unemployment and job and tied the GDP to unemployment. But again, he was very big about 1 million new jobs in the digital economy. How do you think this could be worked out? That was what he pledged. Or do you think that's a low-hanging fruit?
Well, I think it's a low-hanging fruit. When you look at the component of our population, you see that people below the age of 25, we have a lot of them, especially within age 15 and 25, a lot of young people. Government, last administration, have said so much about agriculture. And even at that, we have seen that rather than having improved food prices continue to increase. National Bureau of Statistics said food inflation is at 24%. It became the major driver of inflation. But there seems to be something many young people say that attract many young people today. It's work that has to do with digital life, digital jobs, and so on and so forth. I believe that government can come up with plan or program that will attract a lot of young people, or to partner with private sector, perhaps to even give tax holiday so that young people can participate effectively in that regard. Our population makes that possible for them. And we can mention several brands that are currently operating within that space and are doing well. So I want to strongly believe that the country, the policy, if it eventually enacted by Mr. President, it will be a good one, and it's one of the major low-hanging fruit. He has promised 5 million jobs, per annum, and I also want to believe that this will be a major way to start, because it's going to cut across the entire state. We saw the last administration try to do something like this. I think the challenge was that they were unable to see the policy through. So I'm very hopeful that they could put this around youth program, a program for the youth, and make digital jobs one of the key factors for the program they may want to bring in the near future. Now
that you talk about tax exemption or tax holidays, now the DFDB president, Taiwo Oyedele, the DFDB president at the inaugural dinner on Saturday in Abuja, says the administration of Bola Tinubu should ditch tax exemptions for tax redemption. Explain that to me.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think that while I agree with that message in principle, it's not like it's entirely the right way to go. So incentives are still needed in an environment like this, like the Startup Act. So you have startups that are struggling to raise funds. That's not the time to impose taxes on them. You should allow them that breathing space so they can grow, and then they contribute to the tax revenue subsequently. So incentives are still necessary, but they have to be targeted. They have to be properly designed and implemented without discretion, so that it's clear to everyone. And also they have to be monitored to be sure that for every ₦1 that we give away, we get value that is more than that. But it doesn't take away the fact that he's right in terms of, if you say redemption, you're really saying that the people are carrying a burden that is unnecessary as a result of tax. It's even more painful that those taxes are being paid by the people, but they're not getting to government. So that government needs to help us take out the informal taxes, take out the implicit taxes, reduce the formal taxes we have to pay, harmonize them so that whatever little we pay, we can see the result in terms of the fiscal exchange from government.
Interesting, Paul, when the new president spoke about what you call the Omnibus Jobs and Prosperity Bill. I'm sure you picked that up in President Tinubu's inaugural address. What do you think this bill is about, Omnibus Jobs and Prosperity?
Well, I want to believe that the president and his team has something they are thinking of. They are yet to unveil it, but clearly speaking, they are looking at, rather than what the last administration are targeted, which is poverty reduction, is to look at jobs and perhaps prosperity for the country. We are still watching to see what exactly they meant by that. That phrase has a number. We can interpret it in multiple ways, but we want to wait and see what they meant by this exactly before we can give what our opinion will be about it, so that if we look at one of the meanings and say this is what they are referring to, it might not exactly be what the government is saying. So we want to wait and see what they meant, then we'll be able to give our reaction or what we thought is good in the circumstance as advice to government.
Okay, Taiwo Oyedele, what do you make of the Omnibus Jobs and Prosperity Bill? I'm interested in that prosperity part of it. Is this the prosperity teaching from the pulpit?
So, yes. Yeah, so from speaking to some of the members of, President Tinubu's team, what I believe they want to do with that bill is, if you look at different aspects of the Nigerian economy, you require a lot of intervention, especially in the immediate to medium term. And some of it, you're going to be encumbered by legal restrictions. For example, you are removing fuel subsidy. If the palliative, which I have recommended, is you should give the palliative by adjusting the personal income tax band, increase the exemption threshold, because the people that will suffer the impact of fuel subsidy removal the most are the low-income earners in urban areas, because they have to commit even though their money is small. So if you adjust the band to create a bigger threshold and some band to also give to some middle class, that you require to amend the law to have that, to make that happen. If you want to borrow more from the CBN in the short term, you need to amend the law to make that happen. I think what they have in mind is to look at those areas where they need to do quick intervention but require legislative amendment to put all of it together in one bill and call it Omnibus. Bill. Of course, you're trying to spread prosperity for the Nigerian people and then get that through the National Assembly, maybe even like an emergency intervention bill. And then you deal with our immediate problems, and then we can then have some breathing space to work on our long-term development plans.
All right. Thank you so much. Paul, just a few seconds, 30 seconds there. I'm sure you like the prosperity part of that jobs bill. Are you looking forward to it? As a manufacturer?
Well, I'm looking forward to prosperity. I'm looking forward to a country that will be prosperous. Mr. President has said he's targeting 6% GDP growth rate. That perhaps is higher than all the things President Buhari did while in office. So if you have 6% growth rate, on the average, we are going to have higher per capita income. It means our people will be better for it. I'm looking forward to policies that will make people better, people richer, people more influential in the country, and take more people out of poverty. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And I hope that the policy of government will directly address making people better off, and their living condition will be better off. That's what I'm looking forward to. And I hope exactly that is what government will do in the coming periods.
All right, we're grateful to both of you, Taiwo Oyedele of PwC Nigeria and Paul Alaje of SPA Professional. Thank you for your deep insights in this discussion. Have a pleasant evening.